Heavy metal
My
rock.
global mind.
How can you tell me that this is the story of our lives? Why can't it be something else?
I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on My Global Mind, we are speaking with Robin Taylor Zander of Cheap Trick for his debut solo album, The Distance, and a special show with legendary producer Jack Douglas in Berlin, New Jersey on October 28th. Robin, thank you so much for taking time and welcome.
Thanks for having me anytime.
I've seen you so many times with Cheap Trick, so it's nice to actually see you and speak to you today.
Oh, awesome. Where'd you see us at?
Oh, the last time I saw you was in Morristown, New Jersey. It was about a couple of weeks ago. I think we were still a little before the summer, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was a good show. It was the first show of like a cycle of tour.
Yeah. Well, we did the whole Northeast right before the summer started, so that was fun.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact date. And I've seen you countless times. I've seen you in Pennsylvania at the Wind Creek Casino. I think that was
cool.
Before COVID. And I've seen you at the Wellmont Theater in Montclair. So I've seen you all over.
Yeah. Montclair. Yeah. I love all those venues.
And I saw you open up for Joe Perry at Webster Hall.
Yep, that was a good one too. That was a recent one.
Yeah, that was a real recent one. And it was really impressive because it felt like the audience was really your fans. And that must have felt great.
Yeah, that was a good reception, and a lot of there was a lot of crossover there with some Cheap Trick fans and Aerosmith fans, obviously, that are familiar with both of the artists. So those couple shows we did were really cool.
Tell me a little bit about your band.
Well, we do. On the 28th, it'll just be me playing acoustic, but unless I don't know, unless someone told me otherwise, but I think it's just gonna be me playing acoustic. But the band that we were using before that are all based out of New York. They're called Boys Go to Jupiter, and they're all really talented people. We did like about a half a dozen shows this year so far with them, and hopefully we do more. And that'll be next year. This year I'm just doing the rest of them are all solo acoustic gigs. So yeah, I
enjoyed your show. It was really good. You have a great
they enjoyed it too. I mean, I don't think they had played in front of that many people before when we did the Joe Perry gigs, so they were kind of a little nervous, but it all went well.
Now, talking about the show you have in Berlin at the Berlin Brewing Company with producer Jack Douglas, tell me, you're playing acoustic, but tell me what a little bit of what fans could expect from you and from Jack.
Well, I'll be doing acoustic and I'm pretty sure keyboard stuff as of right now. But yeah, I'll be doing most of the record, and I kind of wrote the record either on piano or guitar, and so that's what you'll hear. You'll hear it how I kind of sat down and wrote the material, which is nice. And then Jack will kind of go along because he kind of knows the process of how we made the record, and he's heard all the demos, so he likes to hear the songs in these forms. So and he'll obviously talk about his relationship with how we got started, and with my dad with Cheap Trick, and all the great bands that he's produced, and how that kind of crosses over. So it'll be a fun time. It'll be a good time.
It sounds like it. I wish I was a little closer. I'm about 2.5 hours away. I'm in New Jersey, but I would have.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, tell me a little bit about your connection with Jack Douglas, other than your father, and he produced your album, right? And it's on his record label.
Well, so he mixed and mastered the record. Me and the guy who recorded it, Kenny Siegel, we co-produced the record, and then we started kind of shopping the record around to labels. And Jack was one of the first people that responded and said, "Hey, we should do something with this." And so at first we were like, "Well, we're just going to produce it and put it out ourselves independently and just go with that." But Jack was nice enough to like call and said, "Hey, this is something that I'm doing a record label, and I'm trying to put out some new music, and this would be something I'd be interested in putting out." So he kind of got involved after the whole record was already done, pretty much. And then we gave it to him and Jay Messina, who he works with on countless amount of records, and so they did the mixing and mastering of the record, and so that's how they first got involved.
It sounds really good, by the way. I really enjoyed
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. It sounds great. Anything that Jack and Jay play, touch turns to gold, in my opinion. So,
And
I owe a lot to them.
I can see his point of view of hearing the songs raw, the way they were written. It's kind of something special and fun about hearing that, because the song has to be really good and to stand alone, either with a keyboard or a guitar, before you could put the full band behind it. So it's actually interesting for the fans to hear that, and it just shows what a great songwriter you are.
Oh yeah, well, it's the acoustic guitar test. Like you can produce a song to the nth degree, but if you can't hear it just the way it was written and kind of understand what it means, then it's probably not the best of a song. So that's kind of how you can tell if a song is good enough or not.
I was doing some reading about the song, reading some background on it, and the title struck me as The Distance, almost like a prize fighter going the distance. You've been working on this for a significant period of time. And is that where the title came in? The distance, the going the distance to get this done?
The phrase kind of came from my dad. Actually, he had an old song when I was a kid, and it was a demo called The Distance, but the song doesn't sound anything like my song. It's like, and then he changed the title and the words, and it became something else. And so I kind of just I was like, well, that's a good phrase. You should have kept the song. I like the phrase, the distance, like going the distance. Or it could mean something else. It's like a double entendre. It could be like distancing yourself from others, or, so there's double meanings to it. But the initial meaning was my dad's songwriting when I was a kid kind of stuck around in my head a little bit. So.
That's pretty cool. Did your dad help you out in any way, or sing or do anything on the album?
Yeah, he does vocals on the track Golden Rule. He does background vocals, and he indirectly helps. He won't say much, but he'll give me his honest opinion on my music always. And it's usually very helpful and usually something that I need to hear. So I'm always grateful for that.
I have to go back and listen to that song, because your two voices on stage blend together obviously so well. I mean, you're a little higher than him, but you blend really well. And you sing a lot of not only the background vocals, but with Cheap Trick, but you're also singing sometimes along with him, which is really impressive. So I have to go back and check that song out.
Yeah, for sure. I do. Well, on the record on Golden Rule, he does basically at the end. It's just the call and response parts. For you forgot the Golden Rule chorus, so he does all the answers. And yeah, it works out great. And what we do live with Cheap Trick is very similar. Like doubling. They do a lot of doubling on the old Cheap Trick records, where you'll sing the lead and then they'll make you double track it. Sometimes 3 times, triple track it to make it sound huge. So we just kind of took that idea and ran with it live, and I just double everything he does. Awesome. And it sounds good, it
sounds spectacular. Fun. And your dad still has a fantastic voice, particularly on The Flame. I mean, you could hear it's just incredible when he plays that song. If you're lucky enough to hear him do that song, it's great.
Yeah, I know. They've the audience really enjoys that one live. They for sure. I mean, it's the only #1 hit they ever had. So it's essential playing. We have to play it live.
And the fact is, Cheap Trick changes their set list up. So there's no guarantee you're going to hear that song. It's all sometimes luck of the draw,
Oh yeah. We change it every night from it's different. It's never the same once.
I know, and that's what I like going about. That's why I like going to all the shows, because you never know what song you're going to play or hear. So it's always
cool.
Being a multi-instrumentalist, how do you approach making music? I mean, you talk about the keyboard and you talk about the acoustic guitar, but is that where it starts?
It usually starts with a bit of poetry. If you I kind of just write down notes on my phone of little lyrical ideas, and then I'll take those little snippets and kind of expand on them. Right. But usually, it does start with an acoustic guitar or a piano, a keyboard of some kind. And it's always been that way since I was a kid. So when I was little, we had, a keyboard up in the music room and some acoustic guitars and electric guitars and a couple basses. So I was kind of fortunate to like jump around and learn music, as a kid, because it was just kind of like going in and, playing with toys.
Awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can't talk about being a multi-instrumentalist without mentioning your voice. And we talked a little bit about what you do with Cheap Trick, but at what point did you find your voice?
I'm still trying to find it.
I think it sounds great.
I lose my voice a lot. Like if I do a couple in a row, I'll lose it. And it's funny, this is the second day of not singing, and I already feel better with my voice. It'll always get hoarse, and I'll be like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do the gig. And then I'll just shut up all day and drink a lot of tea and honey and lemon. So there's a lot of preparation. My dad, has a specific warm up he does before every show, and I try to warm up, as much as I can as well. But sometimes you just, kind of cross your fingers and hope it comes out,
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I was backstage one time for Queensryche, and Jeff Tate was singing into a towel. Did you do anything like that?
My dad used to do that, but now he just doesn't care. He'll just scream. He just screams, and I'll do that. I'm more subdued. Like we usually have a tour bus, and when we're at a gig and everyone's inside in the dressing rooms, I'll go sneak away to the tour bus and kind of warm up out there, because I'm more self-conscious about people hearing me warm up than my dad is. He's a pro, and I'm still a little shy about it. So, but yeah, we always take care of our voices as much as possible.
That must have been like, it's one thing to play guitar in front of somebody or bass or drums like you do, but it's another thing to really sing in front of somebody and sing in front of an audience. When did you get that sense that you could do that and you could handle that? Because some people could sing, but they still can't sing in front of people. So it still takes a lot of energy and effort and confidence to get up there and be able to sing in front of people. When did you find you could do that?
By watching my dad do it, I guess, like as a kid, watching him go up, and when I was off of school, we'd go on the summer tours with him and stay on the bus, and I'd be on the side of the stage every night. I loved watching the band. That was like the height of my my day. If it was a show day, it's like I couldn't wait to see them play. So I just took from a page out of his book, the way he warms up, and kind of just seeing how he treats, the job. And he really prides himself in his work, and so I take a lot of importance in that. He doesn't ever cancel if he's sick or if he's, not feeling the best. He just goes up and does his job. And so, I learned that kind of stuff from him, because it's not easy being in a band and touring as much as they do. It's pretty hard work. And I didn't really know that until you get older, and then you start to lose your voice every now and then. You're like, oh man, it's not easy sustaining this. So, I don't take it for granted.
Did he give you a little push to get out there in front of people? Did you do it a little bit at a time, or you just said, I'm going to jump in, play guitar and sing?
Before I did any of that, I filled in for Dax on drums when he was having his first kid, in 2017. So I actually was asked, just by the band, hey, could you come in and fill? Because they knew I played a little drums. So can you fill in for, a week or two? So that was my first foray into like even playing with Cheap Trick or doing that. And I played in like small bands before that. I lived in Nashville for 5 years, and I played on a lot of people's records. So I was already, by the age of 24, 25, I had already played in a few bands. I've already made some recordings. So I felt like I was already in a kind of a groove there. But I just turned 30, and all the experiences I've had since joining the band when I was 24 have been nothing but positive.
That's awesome. One of the biggest influences I hear on your album was your passion for the Beatles. I know Cheap Trick and your dad are huge Beatle fans. Did that rub off on you, listening to it all the time? And then Cheap Trick is just as a band itself?
Yeah. I mean, it all rubs off on you when you're a kid and you're taking in all that music, or just listening to record collections that your parents have. That's where I kind of soaked everything in and learned my craft, I guess. But yeah, definitely influenced by a lot of the music from when I was a youngster, because you never, like, those are the first songs I listened to were Cheap Trick, the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, the Kinks, the Sex Pistols. Those few bands were like my, Mount Rushmore. So, and the Beatles were always first. I always
Wow.
loved their songs and their albums, and the way they wrote songs, and how they were a democracy and they were a band, and they had many songwriters, and they only were around for 10 years,
Right.
and they made that much of an impact. So like, yeah, totally a Beatles head here.
More than Cheap Trick?
More? Oh, that'd be sacrilegious for me to say. Equally.
Equally, yes, right.
Equally.
Equally.
We'll go with equal and equal opportunity.
That's perfect. There's some really good acoustic guitar work on that album. In particular, What Am I to Do? Who inspires you in the acoustic guitar realm?
Well, there's a lot of great acoustic guitar players. Gerry Garcia, just as a solo artist, was a fantastic guitar player. When I grew up, I was never really a fan of the Grateful Dead, but when I moved to Nashville, I started listening to his solo records, like the Gerry Garcia band, and then the two just like Gerry Garcia self-titled records. And I was like, man, this guy, he can play pedal steel guitar, he can play banjo, he can play acoustic, electric. He's just like a stringed instrument like freak. So he's a acoustic influence for sure. Paul Simon, big influence acoustically. Even like Lennon and McCartney, they wrote some great acoustic songs, and Ray Davies from the Kinks. A lot of those guys are probably my biggest influences on acoustic stuff.
I would have never thought Gerry Garcia. I don't know much of him.
Yeah.
Work. They were way ahead of my time.
Yeah, well, they also just, I mean, he started in 65 with those musicians, and went all the way up till 95, and never stopped touring. Every year he was on a tour, and it's kind of like Cheap Trick in the sense that, they're like, they seem like the hardest working band, but they shouldn't be. but they still seem like they are,
Yeah.
but they're, they've been doing it for so long. It's crazy.
Now you put out your solo album. You play with Cheap Trick. You said you played with bands before Cheap Trick. Tell me a little about Cheap Trick itself. How did it teach you ways of working with guitar, bass, and drums, and interacting as a rhythm section, and putting it together for your solo album?
Well, I not only got to see them work live, but I got to go to the studio, when I was a kid, and watch them make records, which was even more informative. I was able to like really learn how it works to, the recording process, putting together a bunch of tracks, and getting the band on the same page. And I learned that whole process from seeing them in the studio, I think, more than anything. Right. So by the time that I started trying to make my own songs and demos, I kind of knew how it went. You had to get a rhythm section. If it's just you recording, you better learn how to play the drums and bass. Yeah. That was the first thing. And like on my record, I play all the drums and bass on all of the tracks. So I kind of learned how to overdub over myself playing drums, and then doing the bass and then the rhythm tracks and all that, and finally adding vocals. So I kind of learned that from watching them do it in the studio, for sure.
That's the best way, man. That was like you were just dropped right into that room and that realm.
Oh yeah,
you get it.
Yeah, I loved it. I still have memories from when I was like 4 or 5, and the band was working with Steve Albini, and I got to go to Steve Albini's studio when I was a little tiny little kid, and here's the guy who's done, Nirvana, In Utero, and a bunch of bands that I expect, respect and listen to. So I didn't know who he was when I was 5 years old, but now I'm looking back at it and I'm like, man, I'm kicking myself. I wish I was older. I could have asked him a bunch of questions, and, how'd you get this sound? And, how'd you record Kurt doing this and that? And it's like, it's just great to have those experiences, even though I didn't know what was going on when I was that young.
Once in a lifetime opportunities, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you guys take a lot of pictures back then of like you in the studio as a kid? You got all that stuff?
Oh yeah. My mom and dad always documented that. They were good at that. We have rolls of film from the 90s, and a lot of Polaroids and throwaway camera shots, all stacked up in boxes in our garage. So I mean, stuff I probably haven't even seen.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, I have keep a few pictures from a couple of those sessions that are laying around the house.
It's completely awesome. Like also I know that you mentioned we're about the show in Berlin that's upcoming. Um,
Mm.
will you be playing any Cheap Trick songs? Because I know like Wolfgang Van Halen refuses to play any Van Halen songs. Do you have any strong feelings not to play it, or it doesn't matter to you?
No, actually, I did a Cheap Trick song every night that I opened up on this last tour. I did about 4 shows opening up for the band acoustically,
Mhm.
and I only had like 30 to 40 minutes to play with, but I always did a Cheap Trick song. I have nothing against that at all. I love their
Great.
music. I could see where Wolfgang comes from in his situation. It's different, his father passed, and it probably is if he probably still fresh in his head, and if you feel something that strongly, you might want to stay away from it for a while,
Sure.
especially because he was in playing with the band for a number of tours, and so I don't blame him for not wanting to play Van Halen songs, but in my situation, I thought that the audience would like it.
I agree. I
Even
think
though you're not
as a
supposed to
fan, I
think in
like
those
it.
terms as an artist, but I know that the audience would like it and appreciate it, so I'd say, why not, let me do a cover.
Yeah, I always look positive on it. I always say, "Oh, that's really cool. It's great homage. That's paying respect." And at the same time,
Yeah,
it helps with a level of familiarity that if they don't know you as well as maybe they know the band, it helps bring everything together. I personally love it, so I think it's a great idea.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I got no issues with it. But I don't blame Wolfie for not
No.
wanting to do it either.
Yeah, I see both sides of it, and
Yeah, for
I'd love
sure.
to hear him do it. Like at the was it Taylor Hawkins tribute show?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
crushed it.
yeah. No, I watched that, the one they did in LA and in London. That was pretty cool stuff.
Great stuff. Would you say
Yeah.
Trick is a family business at this point in time?
Is a family business.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of having me and Dax up there, yes.
Yeah.
I guess you could call it a family business, but they've they were never really close to each other when they started the band, and I mean they were friendly, but they were in opposing bands. Like all the guys that started Cheap Trick were all in different
Ooh.
bands. Like my dad and Bunny were in a couple bands in high school, and Rick and Tom were in a couple bands after high school or whatever. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like they all knew each other. Rick's dad had a music store in Rockford, so everyone got their music stuff from Rick's, Ralph Nielsen's music.
Oh,
And
wow.
so like they had a when you say like family business, it's been in the family since the beginning,
Yeah.
just because they all grew up in the same town, and so it's always had that vibe, but not in the sense that we are, we're spending time with each other every day.
Yeah.
We keep our own, space and stuff.
But it's cool though too to have father and son in the band, and it works well with Rick and Dak and you and your father. It just works out really well.
Yeah, the band was very fortunate. About 13 years ago, I guess now, when Dax started playing, they were fortunate that he was available, and because he was
Yeah.
doing stuff too. He had he was playing drums for Dick Dale and
That's cool.
Randy Carlisle,
Yeah.
and he had his own thing going on, and he was living in LA and Nashville and stuff. So we were just fortunate, I think, that he was even available to come in and be able to take over as touring drummer.
He does it.
And
He does a tremendous job.
what's that?
He does a tremendous job. He's a really nice guy.
Oh yeah, yeah, he does a fantastic job. I mean, to put up with everyone in the band, you have to.
Do you guys all live on the same bus while you're traveling, or is that you have two buses, or?
Oh yeah, we're one. Everyone in the crew is on one bus, and then everyone in the band's on the other.
It's awesome. That's talk about close knit, right? I think you froze up, Robin.
Yeah,
Oh, there you are. Okay, yeah. And I
I
have
think I lost you.
I have
Yeah,
one
can you
last
hear me?
question. Yeah, I did. I got you. I heard you. You just locked up a little bit. I have one last question for you. Have you ever been to Rick's? I love guitars. Have you ever been to Rick's warehouse where he keeps, or wherever he keeps all those guitars that you see on all the TV specials?
Physically, no, but I mean,
Really?
I have. No, I've never been to the. Well, Cheap Trick has a warehouse, a couple warehouses, and where it's kind of like a shared space. Everyone's collective gear is kind of like sitting in a couple different places. And back in the day, it used to be where they would just have a truck that constantly would drive around. So it was never one spot because they're always touring. So all their gear would always be moving, you know, like they were. But now it stays in like, you know, under lock and key. And I'm sure he's got a bunch of warehouses because he's got way too many guitars.
Yeah. There was a special, I think Gibson did a special with them, and they were just pulling out just such amazing
Yeah.
guitars. And I was in awe. So I was wondering if you ever got the tour of that or see any of those guitars or play.
Well, I get to see him when he'll bring a couple and swap them out on the road. He'll,
Right.
you know, change what he plays, and I'll recognize a couple. Like on this last tour, he brought out the Hamer Flying V checkerboard.
Oh yeah.
So he has the Explorer model, but this one's the Flying V, and I haven't seen that since you know, videos of them touring in the 80s. I don't think he's played it since the 80s.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen the Explorer, but I've never seen the Flying V. I saw
Yeah,
pictures of it recently, and I thought it was pretty cool.
yeah. Yeah, he has the Flying V. If you turn it around on the backside, it's got his face on it.
That's right. That's right.
And so he's got that one, and he has this other one that's really kind of cool. It's a saxophone, like on the headstock. It's like a mouthpiece for a saxophone, and then the neck is like part of the saxophone, and the body is shaped like a saxophone.
I've never seen that one.
Yeah, but he plays it like last song of you'll either play the 5-neck or he'll play the saxophone guitar, and those are kind of oldies but goodies as well.
I think my personal favorite, I think it's called Uncle Dick, the one that looks like him, the body with the two legs.
That's double neck, yeah.
Favorite.
Yeah, that one's classic. He plays that on She's Tight every night.
Yes. Well, not every night, because they don't always do.
Well, that's right. When we do She's Tight, he plays that one.
Robin, I want to thank you so much for your time. It was so insightful and wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
And I wish you the best with your gig with Jack.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. It'll be fun. Yeah, we're gonna have a good time.
Good. Have a great time. Thank you so much for your day.
Yeah, and thanks for letting me reschedule. I appreciate that.
No worries at all, my friend. No worries.
Thanks.
I hope to see you
the
again.
life of a touring musician.
Yeah, I figured as much. You know, that's part of the gig, so I totally get it. And I hope to see you sometime when you come back to New Jersey or New York. So I'll say hello.
For sure. Well, yeah, I'm sure I'll see you next year.
Sounds good, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you too.
Heavy metal rock. Global mind.